Alright guys, I went back and forth on even doing a video about this for a while because I've already done multiple videos about it and frankly I'm sick of talking about it. But Sony has come out and finally directly mentioned their new censorship policies and acknowledged it for the first time, really. And link in the description to the Niche Gamer coverage of this article, which originally is from the Wall Street Journal. Now I'm linking to Niche Gamer's coverage for two reasons. One, the Wall Street Journal is trash, and two, at least at the time of this recording, I actually have the top-rated comment on this article. So, maybe a little bit of bias there. But anyway, we didn't really get a ton of new information out of this. It pretty much just confirmed all the things we already knew. Sony has their own, team of people regulating things beyond what the normal regulatory boards demand. Their own internal regulatory board. They're, forcing these new conditions onto all regions, not just America, also Japan and everywhere globally. They're inconveniencing a lot of their developers who have to deal with this. It's costing them more money and more time. So everything, as far as new information, there wasn't really much. We pretty much knew all the hard facts coming out of this. But the real story here isn't about the facts. It's about how Sony has painted themselves in this situation and how they come across talking about this. And it's really bad. They have somehow managed to make themselves look not only hypocritical and condescending and disrespectful, but also arguably a little bit xenophobic as well. So Sony talks about, their decisions behind making these new policies. And they use a lot of, like newspeak bullshit terms to try to make things sound better than they actually are. So we're going to pick some of this apart here. They talk about their new guidelines are there so creators can create well-balanced content for their platform. Now, if you're wondering what well-balanced content is, it's absolutely nothing. It's a totally undefined and non-existent fallacy. But it has a really positive connotation to it, so they're using that term to try to justify their actions here. And they also mentioned that they don't want to, quote, inhibit the sound growth and development of young people. So they're really concerned about kids. They use the, tried and true my children argument, the Helen Lovejoy special. So they're really concerned about, kids seeing anime titties or something. It will just really mess them up. It's terrible. So instead they should go play Mortal Kombat 11, where they can rip titties off the bone. Because that's better. That's better for your growth and development, kids. But anyway, they cite two factors that really led to these decisions, two of their main driving forces behind it. One of which is actually just totally and factually incorrect. They talked about the rise of video game channels on YouTube and Twitch, where gamers can stream explicit content from Japan. Because, it's real terrible when people see things from other countries. That's a horrible thing. But then they come out and say that Japan, who traditionally have had lax standards on sexual content. Now, this is just totally and factually wrong. You can look it up yourself. The SERO ratings in Japan are actually a lot more strict on sexual content than the ESRB ratings here in America, which is why a lot of Western games that have nudity in them, like, say, The Witcher, end up getting censored in their Japanese releases in order to meet those standards. So, that's just straight out wrong. I don't know where they got that information from. But then they cite that the other reason was the Me Too movement and the, quote, dangers of being associated with content that some might see as demeaning to women. See, Sony is very concerned about being demeaning to women. They don't want that to happen at all. You know, unless it's one of the women that worked on one of these, you know, niche Japanese games, and then, you know, it's totally fine to demean them by, you know, butchering their work, ignoring their artistic freedom, and just taking a big shit over everything that they've been working really hard on. That's totally fine. Those women don't count. It's okay. So, if you remember, in one of my earlier videos talking about this, I speculated that one of their driving forces was their branding and worried about their image. Basically, a fear that some, you know, mainstream news site would write a hit piece about how, oh, Sony is allowing this terrible, sexist, evil Japanese content on their platform, and it's problematic, and it's going to cause all these terrible things, and that's what they're really worried about, because Lord knows the lamestream media loves doing things like that. And they actually mentioned that here in this article. They said that they're concerned about their global reputation being tarnished from having sexually explicit content sold in a few markets. So it looks like I was right. This is a branding move. Now, what doesn't really make sense is, you know, worrying about your global reputation being tarnished and then turning around and making a lot of horrible business decisions that horribly tarnish your global reputation. But, you know, no one ever accused them of being logical. So anyway, this whole thing, if you read through this, it comes across just like really condescending and disrespectful to their fans. They got the, like, sort of nose in the air, you know, we know better than you sort of attitude throughout this. It shows absolutely no reverence for any of their developers. All the little studios that have, you know, drawed fans into their platforms in the first place. All the small Japanese studios that have kept the Vita alive for several years after Sony completely abandoned their own platform. You know, thanks for keeping the Vita alive all that time. Now get the fuck out, basically. Just all around, this is really bad optics for Sony as far as their branding goes, and especially at a time where they're coming out and, you know, teasing a few specs for the PlayStation 5, which I don't exactly know how you tease specs for a thing you haven't even announced yet, but, you know, that's another story. So, it probably isn't the best time to be making yourself look like a bunch of idiots. Especially, you know, coming off several other failures non-related to this, like the PS1 Classic being a total flop, their botched rollouts of the PSN name change things that was causing people to, like, have some issues with their save files and things, dragging their ass on getting the cross-platform multiplayer back a few months ago, which they did finally get straightened out, but it took them way longer than it should have. So they've already got some sort of negative news floating around their brand anyway, and this is just compounding it. And when you're on the verge of launching new hardware, that is something you definitely don't want to have happening. Now, of course, this has caused a lot of people, you know, talking about how, you know, they got the PS5 coming up. I'm not going to buy it as long as they keep up these new policies and things. Which I can't blame them for that decision, and I'm certainly not going to tell anyone else how to spend their money. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to get up on my soapbox and talk about how, oh, Sony's never going to see another dime from me again. Because that would be a lie. I'm not going to lie to you. Will I get a PS5 at some point? Yeah, I will. Because I don't only play Weeb games. I play a large range of stuff, and I tend to usually always buy every console that comes out sooner or later. So at some point, I'll get one. Am I excited for the PS5 right now? No. Will I be getting it at launch? No. Which, to be fair, I never really get anything at launch. The closest I've come, I got the original 3DS model, I think a few months after it come out. That's the closest I've ever come to getting anything at launch, so I don't really do that anyway. But, once I do end up getting one, my software purchases are going to be a lot lower than they usually are. And that's going to be true regardless of if I want it to be that way or not, because a lot of the games that I buy just simply aren't going to be available on that platform. Because they're going to end up doing the exact thing that I said that they were going to end up doing and chasing away all their developers. They're going to move to Switch, they're going to move to PC. I doubt they'll move to Xbox, but it'd be really funny if they did. I would love it if Microsoft somehow pulled their head out of their ass long enough to capitalize on this nonsense and actually get a strong foothold in Japan. Mainly because I think it would be pretty funny. I don't expect that to happen because it's Microsoft, but it would be really great if it did. So they are going to take a hit from business about this. Now, how much of a hit is it going to be? Honestly, not nearly as big of a hit as it should be. Because no matter how you slice it, the people that are concerned about this, the ones that are very vocally upset, are still ultimately a very small minority. The large portion of their fan base, as long as they can play Call of Duty and Madden on it, they aren't going to be concerned about this at all. Which is very unfortunate and very sad, but it's just the way things are. So, that was probably one of the driving forces behind doing this, too, knowing that they could get away with sort of abusing this small section of their audience. But there's no other way to frame this than just total unbridled hypocrisy and just really bad optics on Sony's part. So, they've done a really, really poor job of positioning themselves heading into this next generation. And hopefully they'll, have some negative blowback from this that's actually substantial. But again, I find it hard to believe that it's going to be able to add up to enough to actually make a big hit against them. But anyway, I guess that's all I got to say. So, lots of luck to you and yours.